Hello, BookTube. I have a book haul today. This book haul is composed of two orders from Barnes & Noble. The first is part of a series of pre-orders I put in back in June when Barnes & Noble had a 25% off pre-order sale as a counter to Amazon Prime Days. The other part of this order is a recent order I put in last week. That order came in this past Saturday, and the pre-order came in today. So let's start with the pre-order, and that is the paperback release of Flesh by David Szalay. Teenage Istvan lives with his mother in a quiet apartment complex in Hungary. Shy and new in town, he is a stranger to the social rituals practiced by his classmates and is soon isolated, drawn instead into a series of events that leave him forever a stranger to peers, his mother, and himself. In the years that follow, Istvan is borne along by the goodwill or self-interest of strangers, charting a rocky yet upward trajectory that takes him further from his childhood than he could have ever imagined. A collection of intimate moments over the course of decades, Flesh chronicles a man at odds with himself, alienated by circumstance and the demands of a life not entirely under his control. Spare and penetrating, Flesh traces the precarity and apathy of our uniquely modern crises of culture, asking us to reckon anew with the strange condition of having a body in a society hurtling ever deeper into total alienation. So this novel won the Booker Prize last year, and I decided to wait until the paperback release because, as I've mentioned several times, I prefer trade paperbacks to hardcovers. So moving on to the more recent part of this haul, these are 4 works in translation. Starting with The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, translated from the German by John E. Woods. With this dazzlingly rich novel of ideas, Thomas Mann rose to the front ranks of the great modern novelists, ultimately winning the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1929. In The Magic Mountain, Mann uses a sanatorium in the Swiss Alps, a community devoted exclusively to sickness, as a microcosm for Europe, which in the years before 1914 was already exhibiting the first symptoms of its own terminal irrationality. To this hermetic yet intrigue-ridden world comes Hans Kastrup, a perfectly ordinary young man who arrives for a short visit and ends up staying 7 years. For on the Magic Mountain, Hans will succumb both to the lure of Eros and to the intoxication of ideas. Newly rendered into English by acclaimed translator John Woods, The Magic Mountain is a monumental work of erudition and irony, sexual tension, and intellectual ferment, a book that pulses with life in the midst of death. So, The Magic Mountain is going to be a group read taking place in November and December. So I decided to go ahead and finally pick up a copy of The Magic Mountain, because I've been wanting to pick it up for years anyway. Next is Agua Viva, translated by Clarice Lispector, translated from the Portuguese by Stefan Tobler. In the 40 years since its publication toward the end of its author's life, Agua Viva, an unordered meditation on the nature of life and time, has exercised a powerful influence on Brazil's greatest artists. One musician read it 111 times. This new translation shows why, in a body of work as emotionally powerful, formally innovative, and philosophically radical as Clarice Lispector's, this strange and hypnotic work stands out as a particularly magnificent triumph. This will be my first reading of a work by Clarice Lispector. The last two books in this haul are both works of Japanese literature. First up is No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, translated from the Japanese by I want to say it's probably Donald Keene is the translator. Portraying himself as a failure, the protagonist of Osamu Dazai's No Longer Human narrates a seemingly normal life even while he feels himself incapable of understanding human beings. Oba Yozo's attempts to reconcile himself to the world around him begin in early childhood, continue through high school, where he becomes a clown to mask his alienation, and eventually lead to a failed suicide attempt as an adult. Without sentimentality, he records the casual cruelties of life and its fleeting moments of human connection and tenderness. Semi-autobiographical, No Longer Human is the final completed work of one of Japan's most important writers, Osamu Dazai, 1909 to 1948. The novel has come to echo the sentiments of youth, from Hiroshi Ando of the Mainichi Daily News, from post-war Japan to the postmodern society of technology. Still one of the 10 best-selling books in Japan, No Longer Human is a powerful exploration of an individual's alienation from society. So there was a recent article in The Guardian that mentioned Dazai, and that got me interested in picking this novel up. And finally, also from Japan, is Hooked by Asako Yuzuki, translated from the Japanese by Polly Barton. Eriko's life looks perfect, from her prestigious job at a Japanese trading firm to her spotless apartment and devoted parents. Her newest project to reintroduce the controversial Nile perch into the Japanese market is as ambitious as she is, but beneath her flawless surface lies a consuming loneliness. Eriko has never been able to hold on to a real friend. Enter Shoko, a popular lifestyle blogger whose work Eriko follows obsessively. Shoko lives a life of controlled chaos, messy apartment, take-out dinners, and a kind, easygoing husband. She writes about daily contentment, though her fractured relationship with her father gnaws at the edges of her happiness. When Eriko orchestrates a chance meeting with Shoko, the two women strike up an unlikely connection. For a fleeting moment, Eriko believes she's finally found what she's always longed for. But as her fascination turns to fixation and Shoko's carefully balanced life begins to dissolve, both women are pushed to breaking points neither of them saw coming. Deftly translated by Polly Barton, Hooked is a taut, provocative novel about modern womanhood, the hunger for connection, and the quiet, ordinary ways our lives can spiral out of control. With razor-sharp insight and disarming empathy, Asako Yuzuki explores how far we'll go to be seen and what happens when the ones who see us don't like what they find. So I've heard a lot of great things about Asako Yuzuki. I'm looking forward to this. So, Hooked by Asako Yuzuki, translated by Polly Barton. Osamu Dazai, No Longer Human by Osamu Dazai, translated by Donald Keene. Agua Viva by Clarice Lispector. The Magic Mountain by Thomas Mann, translated by Johnny Woods. And Stefan Tobler, translated Agua Viva. Flesh by David Szalay. So I'll have another book haul coming in either sometime late next week or early the following week, depending on how things work out. And will be equally as translated fiction heavy. So tomorrow I'll have Poetry Thursday, and I might try to do either another tag video or talk about my writing. I just need to figure out how that's going to work out. Anyway, BookTube, until I see you tomorrow, thank you and have a great afternoon.